Hey everyone, just real quick before we start this video, I kinda did an oopsie when I recorded this video and said that Ultrakill was a movement shooter, which is not wrong. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I put it down in my script as a boomer shooter primarily. Whenever I talk about movement and boomer shooters in this video, go with the flow and just presume I'm talking about boomer shooters more than anything. Anyway, that's all from me. Enjoy the video, everyone. Within the realm of video games, there are a lot of popular genres that cloud the gaming space. From platformers like Mario and Sonic to the horrors of Resident Evil and even masterpieces of RPGs that come in the form of Final Fantasy or Pokemon as examples, gaming as a whole has seen a large amount of products over the years that tie into these genres and their respective subgenres that have formed as well, that revolutionize or build upon gameplay by some of its predecessors. One of the primary genres I would like to discuss is the shooter genre, and if you want to go deeper, the first-person shooter genre. First-person shooters, or FPS games, are one of the most populated subgenres in gaming history. As cited from multiple niche sources, which all use information from sources like Newzoo anyway, FPS is a subgenre that people love to bits, with some of the most enjoyed games out there such as Call of Duty and Half-Life being present within. However, today's video is not about them. It's about a subgenre of shooters that I feel needs to be talked about more in modern day. Boomer shooters. Boomer shooters are one of the most defining subgenres out there that I honestly enjoy a lot. A genre that focuses more on the action rather than story, using fast-paced gameplay and no reloading as a crux of its core design. You probably have heard of this genre before through games like Doom or Quake, for example. However, I want to take this video as a means of introducing people, if they have not heard of it, to a boomer shooter that I feel hits the criteria pretty damn well. A game that, while yes, does a lot of these things in the best way possible, also includes so much more that honestly helps the subgenre overall thrive. Let me introduce to you a little phrase that I know. Mankind is dead. Blood is fuel. Hell is full. Ultrakill, a movement shooter made by developer and composer Hakita, and published under New Blood, who you might know from also being the publishing body behind games like the Faith series and Dusk, is one of my personal favorite shooters of all time. Despite being an early access game, it has climbed the ranks of my personal favorite video games of all time, and honestly surpasses a lot of the top games I enjoy, and is honestly one of the greatest boomer shooters of all time in my honest opinion. With inspiration from games like Quake, Doom, and Devil May Cry, it's honestly such a treat we have a game like this. Complex storytelling that's not fully explained by a wall of text at the start of the game, an epic soundtrack that kicks me in the stomach every single time that I listen to it, gameplay that feels and plays like Doom and Quake but also has new mechanics and even utilizes bugs as an actual gameplay feature. It's beautiful! Today, I want to bring you a review of Ultrakill as of its Ultra Revamp update, where many of the layers, including Violence, the most recent layer, had some graphical changes alongside proper changes about them, and comment on what the game does well and doesn't do well. I want to try and be as unbiased as possible here, like my Ring Racers review. However, if that's not the case, then well, I don't care much. I think this game is awesome, to be perfectly honest with you. Also, do note before we begin, I played this game on the violent difficulty. I ain't a game journalist, but I would rather not have this review take ages due to the fact that my pride and OCD on getting the best rank in every level takes over. I really had to repress that during this review, and it hurt. A lot. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Despite playing this game for a long time, even before making the script and video overall, I do not fully understand the story of Ultrakill outside of the basic lore on the Steam page, opening, and a lot of the dialogue throughout the game you can find that tells you more on characters or the world overall, in the main levels, secret levels, and Prime Sanctums. We'll get back to the Prime Sanctums later. I will not act like I understand the full lore, as my brain only understands that this game's lore is complicated yet very fleshed out, with lore being given from things I mentioned prior. It's a very lore-driven game, and I highly recommend watching a lore video or playing through the game fully to understand yourself what's going on. I am all for it though, as you have to actively go out your way to uncover the bigger picture in many cases. What I can tell you at least is the basic lore of the game. You are a robot by the name of B1, the empiric Nikon built by mankind before their demise who needs blood in order to survive. Hell is full of blood, and is one of the only places with beings that are alive as a result of humans being completely gone. Demons, hellspawn, and basically anything alive that isn't human are all that remains now, down in the layers of hell. So, go through hell and slaughter as much as you can, that's it. I like this setup, and honestly it feels a lot like Doom in many regards, and I really enjoy that. It's simplistic, but doesn't revel in shoving story down your throat every 5 seconds. Unlike other shooters you may know, with large cinematic cutscenes that cost the developers $50 million to make and just take control away from you. On the topic of control, how's that gameplay looking? Ultrakill strives in its gameplay and its mastery over it. Considering this game is a boomer shooter, there's quite a few things that can be discussed here. The weapons, the movement, tech, and even the variants of weapons as well. And, well, how you get each weapon is something important to discuss here. Every weapon in Ultrakill has a reason for being within their respective levels. The revolver, for example, the first weapon you find at the beginning of the game, is not only there as an iconic scene within the fact that it's placed within a dark room with a spotlight upon it, especially since your first task is to find a weapon, it feels so dramatic and just kicks so much, especially after picking it up. Speaking of the revolver, I think I can segue this into something that the first level introduces you to. Sure, you're introduced to the revolver as a weapon, but partway through the level, the game introduces you to a little concept known as punching your bullets. Yes, you can punch the bullets. Be it projectiles fired from enemies, or your own, you can do it within Ultrakill. So your shotgun's bullets? Parryable. Cannonballs from the cannon rocket launcher? Parryable! Coins? Oh, they're very much parryable. Oh my god, it's one of the best features within this game that really adds to the tech value, and I just love it so much. It feels so expressive through the amount of ways you can utilize the tools you've been given throughout. And even weapons or tools I don't use much, like the Knucklebuster arm. Knucklebuster can be used to help against the Gunnerman early type, through blasting their shields away, or by being able to deal with a large group of enemies for a shockwave dealing damage. Just to clarify as well real quick, just because I don't use a weapon as much doesn't mean at all that half of the arsenal sucks. It just means that I didn't like using most of them. Even outside the weaponry, the game doesn't give you health packs every 5 seconds like its Half-Life or Thief 2. You aren't given health necessarily out in the open, as you need to actually kill the enemies in order to heal, like you're playing, I don't know, Paladins I guess. I'm sorry Paladins fans. The game makes you fight the enemies in order to heal through standing close enough to the enemies when you kill them. I do feel like the blood mechanic incentivizes a lot of close range gameplay more than the long range gameplay of most of the arsenal, excluding the shotguns, of course, which isn't a bad thing in the slightest, considering some games like Doom and DMC focus a lot on the melee combat more than the ranged, but I do kinda wish there was more longer ranged abilities in terms of healing blood. Sure, there's the grapple arm that can bring smaller enemies towards you and you towards larger enemies, but that's really about it. It's not a big complaint either, I just feel like it's one thing I should bring up either way. I really do think all the weapons can complement the level design, even through the replayability aspect. The ability to replay levels after you beat them gives you a lot more chance to improve your skills, go for higher ranks, and break each encounter and gain higher style values, a means of which points are earned, kinda like DNC's rank system in a roundabout way. And that's what I really love about Ultrakill. The fact that these weapons never really feel old and just feel so good to use. They make traversing a lot of the levels feel so much more alive and adds a lot of potential for combos and even speedrunning. which yes, the game does have a slow but very much growing community for. Speaking of Ultrakill's level design, holy hell, where do I begin? This game's level design, post-revamp, is honestly amazing to look at, and it's one of the things I like a lot about Ultrakill as a game. The environments and levels feel like they were made for their respective layers, and it shows just how much love and care was taken into their creation. Everywhere as well looks like it fits within that 90s sort of style that Ultrakill tries to replicate. Prelude is set within a factory housing the entrance to Hell, and it looks a lot better than the original versions of these starting levels. Which, while yeah, had the atmosphere down, it just didn't get across as well as it does post-revamp, in my honest opinion. Large fans now blow out air particles through certain rooms throughout the course of this layer. 0-2's Gauntlet room, right after meeting the first sword machine, now has an intruder alarm. 0-4 has doors that separate parts of this segment of the factory from each other and works as a decontamination zone. Many of the things work here, and this isn't just the only example of changes, albeit these are more so design changes. The Wrath layer had some of the biggest changes within the update itself, in its presentation and some gameplay too. Examples being with the Ferryman boss fight being updated, the Ship of Fools level feeling a lot more alive and having new destructible elements that add to your combo meter, and especially with the climax of this very layer being a testament to the changes made via this update. The Leviathan boss during this climax has an entirely new phase that wasn't seen prior to the revamp, and holy crap does it do a great job at it. And this layer really accommodates for a lot of the gameplay elements within Ultrakill as a whole now, and oh my goodness, it's just so good. That's not even to mention some other great moments in the game. Another great example is the most recent layer, Violence, and its own climax, where everything just ramps up to 11. Throughout the course of this layer, and the same being with the aforementioned Wrath layer and even Act 1's Lust layer, you can see subtle foreshadowings throughout the stages within their respective layers for what's in store for the player during the final boss of that layer. Violence kicks that up to a new extreme, but more so through 7-2. You see this massive robot. This is an Earth Mover, a giant walking destroyer made by humanity before their demise that our main protag V1 was designed to counter and kill. And that's not even to mention the actual boss fight itself, as the boss fight isn't just a boss fight, it's an entire level as well. Within a few video games, there comes a moment where you tend to fight a large boss that's bigger than you in size. A boss type that I like to call a colossal boss fight. But what if I told you that the Earth Mover was the same thing, but is also the level itself? Genuinely, this is one of the coolest ways to make a boss fight feel more impactful and still show the threat that they express throughout their encounter. It's one of the bosses that I can say shows how Ultrakill is as a game, not only through this level but other ones too. The level design is just perfect, and is just the icing on the cake, as it provides you more than just a level. It's a war without reason that you're intervening on, and one that V1 will end no matter what. Outside of the main levels, there also exist secret levels for every layer with their own differences, let's say. Every single secret level is unlocked via finding a secret exit in certain levels on each layer, and are drastically different depending on the layer. For example, Prelude makes you go through a darkened area whilst avoiding something wicked and evil that makes me alt F4. Greed's secret level is Cash Banuka, baby! These levels are all varied in their design and everything, and just honestly is such a breakaway from the usual action that it feels so refreshing and a nice change of pace from the usual bloodshed Ultrakill features. Alongside this, there also exist two challenging levels that are admittedly not the best. This is an entire skill issue on my end, by the way. The Prime Sanctums are a set of challenging levels unlocked from perfecting every stage in the game, as in getting that shiny P at the end of every level. And oh my god, I hate these stages so much. I was almost tempted to not include these though. I'm going to be completely honest with you on that, as I just hate these levels, not because they're bad, they're just some of the hardest stages in the game. Look, I understand this is what I get for P-ranking everything, but even I have to admit, these are just painful, and it pains me so much to say that. Don't get me wrong, they're cool and a nice achievement for doing the best throughout every single stage in an entire act, but I just don't know what you want me to say, except that these are just hell incarnated. That's not to say I dislike a hard level, that would be me basically saying that most of the game sucks. I know, these just take it to a new extreme that I can't keep up with. And P-1 is one example of that, where it's a long spiral down, you find yourself against two bosses. One of which being the Flesh Prison, which has a literal health regen that makes me want to throw my PC into a dumpster! To add on to the level design real quick, they're also accompanied by some of the best musical pieces to ever grace my ears. Many of the musical tracks within Ultrakill remind me a lot of the primary inspirations for the game. A lot of the songs within Ultrakill have a breakcore aesthetic and honestly fits the over-the-top rock nature that the game exemplifies greatly in a lot of ways. Songs like Into the Fire, Death Odyssey, Deep Blue, and Verses are all examples of this. These songs feature some sort of build-up, a combo variant of the song that plays that leads into the action-filled breakcore variant that mixes with the other instruments featured during the build-up to make tracks that honestly have so much more kick behind them. Even in the calmer ambient tracks such as Death Odyssey Aftermath and Fallen Angel, they get across the feelings of their respective scenes and gameplay extremely well. Whilst, of course, they're not as breakcore as other tracks in the game, they still have their moments to shine. All the music, I feel, has a purpose for being where and when it is throughout the game, in my honest opinion, and just builds into the game's overall style. Now, outside of level design and presentation, how was the difficulty itself? Well, in all honesty, Violent is definitely one of the best difficulties to play Ultrakill on, in my honest opinion. And out of the 5 difficulty levels at the time of writing this, those being categorized into accessible, hard, and very hard, where Violent falls into the lower half of hard, I feel like Violent was a perfect difficulty considering how used to shooters like this I am. Even before starting work on this video, I did tend to play boomer shooters on high difficulties, if available. Therefore, I had experience, sure, but it still felt like a fresh challenge, and it was not messing around at all. Honestly, it just felt so refreshing to play through the Violent difficulty and just have so much fun doing it and learning segments of the game inside and out, to the point where I could get P ranks on almost every level first try now. There's a lot about Ultrakill that I've talked about in this video, and the fact that it's not even finished and is still in early access after all this time is honestly amazing. This game genuinely feels like a masterpiece that's been cooking in the fryer for a long time, with a lot of things that have come and gone. Even with the Ultra revamp overhauling a lot of things level-wise and overall design-wise, it is still one of the best experiences that I've ever had playing a single-player shooter. And it's honestly one of my all-time favorite games, and I love it to bits. Even in its early access state right now, I do mean that wholeheartedly, as Hakita and the other amazing faces who have helped make this game a reality have done such a great job that I wish more developers would follow. Hopefully it will, and I also hope that this review has made you think about giving the game a shot yourself. With that, I believe that's the end of my time here for today. So, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.